We want to take a closer look at how this world-famous athlete could have risen so far against the odds, only to fall so fast. Joining us is Sean Gregory. He's a senior sports writer for Time magazine who covered the London Olympics last year and has interviewed Pistorius several times over the past 5 years. It's nice to have you with us, Sean. Good morning.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Does this strike you, this story as it stands, as the kind of person you've met so many times in your career?
No, it's terrible. I mean, this was a real shocker. We've seen these kind of falls from grace before, but no one could have ever bet that, of all people, Oscar Pistorius, really a worldwide inspiration because of all he's overcome to compete against able-bodied athletes. For him to do this, allegedly do this, is shocking beyond belief.
How big a star had he become in track and field?
It's hard to overstate how big a star he became. You know, when he was competing against able-bodied athletes, every meet he went to, he was the story. You know, other track athletes who don't get a ton of attention had to answer the question, does he have an advantage? Does he not have an advantage? Yeah. So, and most track athletes seem to, you know, take that in stride. So yeah, he dominated the scene.
As I understand it, though, you did at one point see a different side of Pistorius.
Well, you know, in the Paralympics, he lost a race, and he had never lost before, and he kind of accused a Brazilian runner of having an advantage, that his prostheses were too long. And that struck people as a little surprising. He had been so kind of such a class act throughout, and, you know, he defended himself when people said he had an advantage, and then he went after somebody who thought had an advantage. So it seemed a little hypocritical. So it was really surprising. The first time that Oscar really got negative press was at the Paralympics in London this year.
It's early still, but I mean, how big a blow do you think this is going to be to the whole Paralympic movement and to track and field?
It is early, but yeah, it's a huge. I mean, the Paralympics got a lot of attention this summer, and mostly because of Oscar Pistorius. He brought tons and tons of attention to that movement. And, you know, sports in general, and track specifically, it's another example of an athlete that, you know, we thought was one thing and is now another. We don't know what to believe anymore. There's a lot of reason for cynicism in athletics right now, and that's kind of sad.
Pistorius' team, the defendants, are going to say here that he was trying to defend himself, that South Africa is a very dangerous place. Mm-hmm. As I understand it, you've seen he has guns in his house. This is something that he did and kept supposedly to protect himself. Yeah, no, he's kind of a gun enthusiast. So he had a habit of going to shooting ranges and things like that. So it's something obviously that he was into. You know, why he used it in this specific reason in this case, we'll find out. So yeah, it's just a sad story overall.
Is there a larger takeaway from this, do you think, in the end, Sean?
I think honestly, it's, you know, there's so much myth-making in sports, and we've seen with, you know, this is an extreme example and a different example, but Lance Armstrong, Manti Te'o, Alex Rodriguez may be cheating. You don't know who's who, and so, you know, when you see profiles and you see Nike sponsoring guys and making myths about people, you just got to be careful, and sadly it's a reason for cynicism, and that's kind of sad. We just want our heroes to be the real deal and play on the same playing field that we're all trying to play on and win on. Yeah, and you know, it goes back to Charles Barkley saying in the 90s, "I am not a role model as a sports athlete," and maybe he was really right. We have to be careful when we tell our kids, be like this guy, because we just don't know who's who. Sean Gregory, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you.